Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of Dev Drawer. Today we're going to be starting a new project, and that project is going to be creating a custom front end for a e-commerce website using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So in the past I've showed you how to build a content management system, how to build a API, as well as how to kind of hook up to that API. So what I'm going to be doing today is using JavaScript to connect to an API and then taking that API and populating an e-commerce shopping cart. So let me show you a little bit what it's going to look like, and then we can get started. So this is going to be a pretty cool project. We're using Bootstrap and we're using some fake store API to grab some products, but this is essentially what it's going to look like. It's a pretty simplistic store, but we're going to have where we have individual pages, a cart, wish list, where you can come over here, you can add these to your cart, add it to your wish list, and then based on this API we'll kind of get that all set up so that we can do user authentication, get all the cart information, all this kind of stuff that's being stored off-site, whether we create it or we pull it from Amazon or Walmart or whatever. So this is kind of what the end result's going to look like. Okay, so hopefully you're looking forward to building that. While we are getting started, there is this fakestoreapi.com that I found. And basically it's a API that you can use to kind of do some testing. So in some of my other videos, which you can either see in the description or one of the little flyout cards, you can build your own API. But I don't want to build an API with this. I want to focus more on the front end, since our last project dealing with APIs was the API itself. So you can reference that project and get into that all you want to. But this one, we're just going to be using a sample API that grabs products, categories, just something that we can use in this test. So this is where we're going to be pulling it from, so fakestoreapi.com, and then we're going to be using that instead of our JavaScript. So let's go ahead and create the structure that we need in order to get started. So I've already created a folder, put my index.html so I can fire it up when we get ready to go live, but I also want to go ahead and create some of the folders that we're going to need. So let's create the JS folder and the CSS folder. Right now we're not really going to be doing any CSS. We'll get into that in a later tutorial for the series, but for right now we're just going to be kind of building the JavaScript part of it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up our index.html, and we're going to set a basic HTML5 structure, and this is going to be, let's say, dev drawer sample e-commerce. Okay, so now we have this. I'm going to go ahead and start it up live, and as you can see here, we're currently live editing. So let me get out of this, and we are currently in there. So let's start creating links to our JavaScript and actually start building out our JavaScript. So right before we get to the body tag, I'm going to add in, let's do script source equals JS initialize.js here. Alright, so that's going to be where our script resides, and I'm just going to also use jQuery. So jQuery is probably the only framework I'm going to be using for any of this, so let's just grab a jQuery CDN, and I'm just going to grab it from, not from there, let's just grab it from any one of the ones that pop up. Alright, so let's just copy this script tag. We're going to paste it right here. Local project, so we don't need any of this stuff. So we're just going to have a reference to it. And then I also want to do the same thing with Bootstrap, just because we're going to be using Bootstrap for the front end of it. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy over some of the stuff that I need for Bootstrap itself. So let's click on Get Started. And here, so I'm going to copy this and paste it there, and that's going to give me the Bootstrap bundle. And then I'm also going to go ahead and copy the CSS, because we're eventually going to be needing that as well. Alright, so now we kind of have our index there. Okay, so now we kind of have our index.html where we want it to be at. We have jQuery, we have Bootstrap, and then our initialize.js. So let's go ahead and create our initialize.js here. So inside of this file, we are going to be adding, I guess kind of creating like an MVC for our JavaScript interface. So first thing I want to do is create like JavaScript's load function, or I'm sorry, jQuery's load function. So we're going to do function, and then we're going to, inside of this, we're going to create a function that's going to pull in other JavaScripts for us, because I wanted to kind of create, like I said, an MVC where it's not really an MVC. I'm sorry, it's an object-oriented JavaScript, I guess. It's probably the easiest way I can describe it. So let's create a function called load script, and then inside of this function we'll run some code that'll actually load JavaScript for us, so we can create some classes and kind of get it organized a little bit. Alright, so let's come down here and let's create this function load script, and what we want to pass to it is the URL of the file that we're loading, and then we also want to pass the callback so we know how it gets pushed out. Alright, so, and then this is something you can use or not use. It's completely up to you, however you want to do it. You can call all of the JavaScripts that you have inside of each footer that you have, but I'm just going to kind of go the quick way and load the scripts using JavaScript itself. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a variable for the head, and this is going to be just the document.head, and then let's create another variable for the script, and then this is going to equal the document.create element, and then this is going to create a script element for us, and I'll explain it a little bit more once basically this is building it, but I'll explain it a little bit more whenever we actually get it populated. So we're going to do script.type, it's going to be text JavaScript, which you don't necessarily need, but I'm going to include it in there anyway. And then we're going to do script source is going to equal the URL that we've already populated, and then script on ready state change is going to equal the callback. So whenever the script is actually pulled and it's ready and it's loaded fully, then it's going to hit this callback, and the callback is just going to be another I guess a function or a variable that we're going to use that will basically add these scripts to the front end so we can use them inside of these function and class calls. Okay, so script.onload, nope, that's not what I want. Here, script.onload equals callback again, and then we're going to do head, and we're going to append child, and then script. And again, once again, my typing is always terrible. Okay, so basically we are creating a variable for the head and the script. We're setting all the variables for the script, and then we're appending the script to the head. So whenever we load this script here, we're going to pass a URL, and let me see if y'all can even see this. So if I go to inspect here and we look at the head here, as you can see, it's trying to pull over something now, but it's source undefined because obviously we're not passing anything to it. But essentially it's adding, every time we call that load script, it's going to add another reference for us. So that way, instead of having to potentially worry about editing each one of these HTML files, since we're not using something to manage it like an actual routing system for our JavaScript like Sammy.js or I don't know, one of the newer ones. Since we're not using that, it will be harder for us to manage the header and the footer scripts for every single page. So this just kind of lightens the load a little bit for us. Again, it's a function you don't have to use. It's something that I feel that would make it a little bit easier. But let's get into this a little bit more. So we have, as part of this API, we have these calls that we can make for the products, the carts, users, and login tokens. So underneath the products, we can grab individual products, or we can grab individual categories or products that are based within those categories. So I'm going to open this up a little bit because this is the URLs that we're going to be using. So we're going to create a JavaScript that's also going to reference each one of those. So inside of this folder, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it categories.js. And then we're also going to create a new file, and we're going to call this one products.js. So inside of this, I'm going to be referencing the URL of the categories in the products.js in order to be able to use them. So we're going to do JS and then categories.js, and then we're going to, as our callback, we're going to create a function, and let's just call it categories setup. And then I'm going to copy this, and we're going to now paste products, or create our products.js, and then we're going to change this categories to products as well. So now if we view the source code here, I think it's somewhere in here, the head maybe. Well, I'm not getting an error, am I? I am. Okay, so that's why it's breaking, because we don't have these callbacks set up yet. Okay, so that makes a little bit more sense. I was wondering why it wasn't appearing, because it should appear in the head. All right, so let's go ahead and create our functions. So we're going to do category setup, and let's just create a variable called category setup, and it's going to equal to a function. And then inside of this function, for now, let's just do console log categories. Let's say category here. And then let's create another one called products setup, and then we're going to do products here. And get rid of that. Okay. Alright, so now we can see that it's adding categories and products. If we open up our console log, we can see that it is also populating our console log here. So what we want to do is make it where it's actually pulling information and passing it along in order for us to be able to use it inside of our JavaScript and publish things on our page with it. So let me close out of this, and let's start working on the categories. So I'm going to do some object-oriented programming here, and basically it's going to create this structure for us that we're going to be using, where we can kind of manage our functions for this JavaScript a little bit better. So before I get too far into it, if you like this kind of video and you know, if you think this is a cool thing that you can do, I know you haven't really got into it too far because we're setting it up, but you know, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, definitely subscribe. If you like the video or you have comments about it, you know, leave me a comment, hit the thumbs up for me, you know, whatever you need to do, and let me know what you think. But again, this video is going to be kind of I guess a medium-sized one, because we're going to be setting up pulling from this JavaScript, or this this API, and then we're just going to be displaying information right now, but in the next few videos we'll actually be building out the full front interface, where we have, you know, what we saw in the preview, where we have the images, everything being pulled over, categories, navigation menu, shopping cart, all that kind of cool stuff. So if you like this, stay tuned for the next few videos, because it's just going to get better and better. This one's kind of like setting it up for us in order for us to start using that front end. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with creating our categories class. So we have a class categories, and then let's create our constructor, structor. There we go. And then inside of the constructor, you can pass whatever you want to in it, but I think the only thing that we need for now is this API URL, and we're just going to pass along this fake store API URL because this is going to be used by every one of our categories and products. So I just copied that, and now we can use it in just by calling this variable here. Okay, so let's say we want to create a function called get all categories. So I'm going to be using Ajax. If you want to use the fetch on like they have in their documentation, you can. I've always used Ajax, so it may not be the best thing to do, but it's something that I'm used to, and it's something I can actually showcase how to do. So I'm going to be using that, but you can actually use the fetch if it helps you. Okay, so let's go ahead and build out our Ajax. So we got .ajax, then let's create that function, and this is going to be a get because the API is a get as well. I think on the other page you can see all of these are get routes, so that's what we're going to be using for right now. Most of the stuff we do here is going to be pulling the information, so it's all going to be get. So get is going to be the type. The URL is going to be using this API URL plus the products categories, which would be this is products get all categories. So products category. So I'm going to copy this products categories, and that will give us the pretty much the full URL that they're giving us in the fetch. Okay, so now let's on success, we're going to create another function where it's going to pass the data that it retrieves, and then inside of this, for right now, I'm going to do a console.log data. Okay, so inside of our browser, I'm going to open up this again so we can see it. So there's nothing currently going on here because it's still currently just doing category setup, and then it's displaying the console log. So now that we have this function, I want to take this function and add it to the initialize.js, and instead of doing console.log, we're actually going to create the class reference to categories. So let's do let categories, and this is going to equal new categories, and then we don't have to pass anything because our constructor doesn't require anything. It's gathering the information that it needs. I mean, what we could do up here is, like, inside of this function, we could create a public variable that is this API, but you know, just for right now, I got it all inside of the class itself, and we would be able to pass that, but for right now, we're just not going to worry about that part. Okay, and I don't know which is better, but I've stopped using these semicolons at the end of my JavaScript just because it makes it a little bit cleaner looking for me. I keep forgetting because it's still a new thing for me to be able to do that. So if you see me going back erasing those semicolons, it's not necessary. It's something that I'm just doing. Okay, so we've created this variable called categories, and we want to run this categories and then get all categories function, which should now, if we see this, we can see that our categories are currently being pulled over electronics, jewelry, men's clothing, women's clothing. So if we go look at this show output, electronics, jewelry, men clothing, women clothing. So now we're officially hitting this API using Ajax, and it's grabbing all of these categories for us. So what can we do with this information? Well, we can make it where it displays, it pins some data. So let's switch over to our index.html, and then inside of our body, I'm going to create a let's see, what do I want to create it? I'm going to create a class that we can append the names to. So let's say like a navigation item. We can do a navigation item at the top, and then that way we can link out to each one of these categories. So let's try to do it that way. So inside of the index.html, I'm going to probably do a nav or a header. So let's do header, and then inside of this header we're going to do ul class equals nav, and then we want to have a drop down. So let's do div class equals, that is not semantic at all. So let's do div class drop down menu categories, because we are using Bootstrap, so we want to keep the kind of their class structure names. So categories, and then inside of this, yeah, I don't think we need anything there, but we do need to wrap this inside of an li tag. So let's do li class equals nav item, and there. Okay, so now we have this class here that we can hit. So let's go into our JavaScript again inside the categories, and now let's use this data that is being sent over to us. So we're going to do data, so data dot each function index category. So we're grabbing the index and we're grabbing the category name or category information as well. And then inside of this we're going to append something to that class categories. So dot append, and then we're going to pass a let's just do like an a tag, a href equals drop down item, because again this is JavaScript or Bootstrap, so that's what we're looking for here. So Bootstrap and then href, and since we're not using like routing for our JavaScript, we're just using flat JavaScript files. What we're going to do is create a category category.html, and then we want to pass the category slug to it, which is the category name in this instance. And there, I think that should do it. Let's also pass the name here. Okay, so we're going to do category and then category here. Okay, so let me see what this error message is. I guess I need to spell a little bit better. Append. Okay, so now elements, body, header, ul, li. Okay, it's appending. I don't see where it's appending it at in the code though. Alright, so we'll get down to that in a minute. It's adding something somewhere else. So category equals drop, oh, href. That's not what I wanted. I want it to be class here. A class, and then it's passing electronics. Okay, so it's, I don't know why in the world this thing is not displaying. So let me see. I want to do div class equals container. I don't know why. Here, maybe if I zoom out, zoom in. No? Okay. So I wonder if I can do this then. Test. Okay, so why is that showing? And why is it not showing my header? Eval class nav. Okay, I'm just going through it to see why this isn't showing. I might have to declare the style sheet for it. Okay, you know what? I'm going to take away drop down menu. See that, there we go. Alright, so that helps out a little bit. I can at least see what I'm doing now. So we'll go in there and actually make it a drop down, but for right now it's not what I'm wanting to worry about. We'll get to the design, the styling of it a little bit later. Okay, so what I don't like that it's doing is it's currently lowercase. The words for the category is not encoded for a URL properly. So what we want to do is do some work on side of this and make it where that it encodes the URI, changes this to title case. So let's create the functions that we can reuse throughout the site to do that. So what I'm going to do here is first create a function called toTitleCase, and we're just going to pass in a string. And then what we want to do is return string.replace, and this one is going to be a regular expression that is going to essentially make it where it uses proper case. So it's going to give the first letter of new words in uppercase. So let's go ahead, and I don't know where I found this at, but I've used it forever. So it's just something that I know because I've done it so many times, but if you want, I'll just read it out so you can kind of do it on your own. So we're going to do / open parentheses, question mark, colon, and then what is this? I don't know what that is. It is a small uppercase or small triangle pointing up, and then we're going to do the pipe, and then /s close parentheses /w/g. I think that is it. So / parentheses question colon arrow pipe, and that's not an A, that's supposed to be an S, and then WG, that's not a parentheses there. Okay, so that is the regular expression. Then we're going to do function match and return match to uppercase. Okay. And then we need to close that out. Okay, so now let's take this function and see if it works. So we're going to go back over to our categories. We're going to wrap the name of the URL inside of this function, and that gives us uppercase for each word. So that looks a lot better. We don't have to worry about it. So I'll give you another second to kind of screenshot this regular expression that I use and how I did it, because it's not something I can easily explain to you. I just remember I found it years ago, and that's what I currently use whenever I want to do JavaScript title case. So it's kind of like string to upper, stuff like that whenever you're in PHP. So let's see, what else do we need? We need to create, actually over here we can use a regular jQuery function called encode URI, not URL, URI component, and then we pass that, and that should give us a friendly URL behind these. So let's see what they look like. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. So it's doing %20 clothing and %20 clothing there. So it's replacing the, well, it's still got a colon in it, or a single apostrophe in it. So I'm going to have to fix that. We'll fix that in a little bit. I want to move on to keep going in order to start getting some products and showing you what they look like on this page. Alright, so let's create this new page that we're going to call category, because we have it up here as category.html. So I want to create a new file, and it's going to be called category.html. For now, I'm just going to copy over this category or the index.html that I had. I'm going to get rid of this header for now, and then inside of this we're going to display products for each one of these categories. So let's create a div class equals row, and let's call this one also products. So we're going to populate the columns inside of this category.html. So let's go ahead and open up that page. So let's go to the electronics one first, and it's currently blank, which is to be expected. So with it being blank, we are going to now go over to our categories.js, and we're going to create a new function that's going to be get single category, and we're going to pass in the slug that we are passing as part of our URL. Okay, so again, this is pretty much going to be the same thing. It's just we're going to narrow it down a little bit. So instead of product categories, we can, let's hide that, get all products in a specific category. We want to pass the permalink to, or the slug to it, as well as category. So product category and then the slug. So let's go ahead and test that out with just the jewelry category, and then we'll see how that looks in just a second. So we can eliminate this. Actually, we can eliminate this whole thing through console.log data. I'm guessing my Visual Studios is adding that semicolon in for me, so I guess I'll just keep doing that. Alright, let's go back over here, inspect console, and of course we don't have anything calling this function, so let's go back to our initialize.js, and inside of this products category setup, we are going to create to see if the products exist for a category. So let's do kind of the same thing that we've done here, but it's going to be get single category. So single category, and then we're going to pass in a variable, and right now we're just going to do jewelry. Alright, let's see which one we're actually on. Now let's do electronics. So we're going to pass in electronics here, pass in electronics, and then inside of here I'm also going to change this to electronics. Okay, so in our console we can see that now it's passing over our electronics products that are coming from the API, and as you can see, the API is also sending us over category description, the product ID, the image, as well as the price and the title that needs to go inside of the category or the product. So what we're going to do is take this category.html where we have these products, and we are going to pass along each one of those products and just add it to the this data function here. So we're sending it over. Products is the class, and we're going to append to that, and we're going to append a div class equals column, and I want to do four products per row, so column MD4, and then we're going to pass along the okay, so let me change this real quick. So we're not in the categories anymore, we're in product. So we're going to call this one, it's going to be an each index product. So we're going to pass over the product.name. No, it was product title. There we go. So now you can see that it's passing over inside of a column. It's passing over the title. So let's see what else we can grab from this. So we had price, title, and image. Okay, so image would be a good one to get. So inside of here, let's do, actually I want to do 3 in order to give me 4. Let's go ahead and give it a href equals product.html, and we're going to be passing the product ID. So product ID equals, and this is going to be product.id, and let's go ahead and pass that along there as well. So now let's add the image here. So we're going to do image source, and then class equals image fluid, image source class equals image fluid. So the image source, they're giving us the full URL. So we're going to do this. So product image. And now you can see from the page, it is loading the images for each product. We have 4 columns. And if we click onto it, obviously it doesn't go anywhere because we don't have this product.html completed, but you can see that it's kind of gathering this information using JavaScript. Okay, so now let's, I got the basics of the API done. So what I want to do is make this a little bit cleaner here. So what I don't want to do is include a header and a footer or navigation every single time that I want to make a change. I have to go in there and update it. So I'm going to create a new folder, and we're going to call this new folder templates. And then inside of this templates folder, we're going to create a footer.html, and then we're going to create a navigation.html. So let's create, nav goes here, and then the footer goes here. Okay, so now we have our footer and navigation, so let's include those where we want to get them. So above the function, we're going to add these HTML files to our, basically the pages that are being created by adding a div to them. I want to go ahead and do this now because once you start building up your pages, you have to go in there and undo it, redo it, and all this kind of stuff. So I'm trying to avoid that. So we're going to do get /templates / navigation.html, and then we're going to use a function. We're going to pass the data that we're gathering there, and we're going to add it to a div. So replace with, and then data. Okay, so let's just call the div that we're going to create ID nav placeholder. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, and we're going to do the same thing for the footer. So templates, footer.html, and footer placeholder. So now we can grab this nav placeholder, and we're currently on the category.html. So let me show you what this is going to look like. So we're going to do div ID equals nav placeholder, and you can see it's adding nav goes here above it. So let's do the same thing down here for footer placeholder. There we go. So we get the footer and the header, and let's do the exact same thing to our home page. And I'm going to take this header and we're going to add to our nav. So this page content goes here for the home page, and then inside of our navigation, we're going to replace nav goes here with this header. So we're pulling back the URLs that we're looking for. Okay, so it's kind of getting there. So let's go back to our home page, and we have our header, page content, footer content. Okay, so let's see, we got footer placeholder. Let me center up this stuff a little bit, and I'm actually going to change this to container fluid. I'm just going to copy this, And inside of this footer, so it's not hanging off to the side over here, do footer goes here, so it's lining up with the rest of our content. Okay, and then inside of our navigation, our header can be there. We're going to add a fluid container and put our navigation inside of it. Okay, so that's kind of given us where we want. So if we click on men's clothing now, obviously it's not working because men 27S 20 clothing is not what it's looking for. So we need to be able to encrypt and or encode and decode that information. So let's go and close out of these two, open up our categories again, and we're going to modify this information that we are pulling from it. Right now it's electronics, the slug is being passed, but we're not actually grabbing what we want and pushing it along. So let's change this to be slug. But again, if we try to get it to work by clicking on electronics, okay, well, it works there. Let's try men's clothing. So men's clothing obviously doesn't work because this doesn't exist. So we need to encode and decode that URL that's being passed. So let's create a function. Slug. Okay, I'm just reading through what we have right here to make sure that I'm grabbing what I need. Alright, so let's go to the initialize.js, and let's see, category, get single category. Okay, well, one thing that we need to do obviously is not pass electronics here. That's why we're still getting the electronics. So what we want to do is create a function that's going to grab that URL parameter for us. So we're going to come down here and we're going to do function, and let's call it URL param, and we're going to pass the name of whatever's being passed. So let's do var results equals new regular expression. And again, this is something that I've done before. It's something pretty cool if you ever wanted to grab a something off of a URL using JavaScript. This is kind of like a short way to do it. So I'm just going to read out the regular expression as I'm doing it. So we're going to do open square bracket, question mark, ampersand, close square bracket, and then it's going to be plus name plus, and then equals, because we wanted to grab whatever's after the equal sign. So we're going to be grabbing the name and then the actual value that's being passed. Okay, so we got, that's right, name, then equal sign, and we're going to pass this little triangle pointing up again, ampersand, pound, and close bracket. I forgot to do my open bracket here, and star, close parentheses. Okay, so that, and then dot execute window, or extract. This is extracting the Windows location dot href for us. Alright, feels like I'm missing something here. Okay, so if results equals null, we want to return a null. That way we're not passing something that doesn't exist. Otherwise, we want to return results in the first position 0. Okay, so let's I think we need to take this to be able to test it out. Let's go to URL parameter, and we are going to wrap inside it. Let's just do like a console.log URL parameter, and we're looking for the category. Parameter. Alright, so let's see how this looks in the console window. See if it's grabbing what we want. Windows is not defined. It probably needs to be a window. Window.location. There we go. Alright, so it's returning a null, which is not what it should be returning. So let me make sure that I did my regular expression correct. So we have question mark, ampersand, name, and then open brackets, up arrow, up triangle, ampersand, hash, close bracket, multiplication, close parentheses, and that looks up. I know what I did. Don't need that or that. There we go. I think I was throwing that off there. Let's see if that returns what we wanted to. There we go. So now we're grabbing men's clothing. So now let's format that a little bit better. And the way that we do that is we want to decode, because we're encoding it whenever we send it. So we want to decode URI component, and we want to decode that URL parameter. And as you can see there, it is saying men's clothing, exactly what we want it to. Alright, so now let's just pass this, and we can get rid of the console log. Let's pass this instead of passing electronics, and that should give us the men's clothing. Alright, so now if we click on jewelry, that'll give us the jewelry, men's clothing again, women's clothing, electronics. Alright, so cool. That's what we're wanting it to do. Alright, so let me get rid of this console log. Alright, so I think that now, I think that's it for the categories. Let's go over to the products. So the products, whenever you click on one of these products, let's see where it currently brings you. So product HTML, and then product ID equals 9. So we need to create that product HTML. So I'm going to take our category HTML, and we're just going to copy that. We're going to name it product.html, and now we have our information as it was. So we want to do, this is going to be a single product, so we don't want to do this anymore. And I'm going to change this to category or a container fluid, just so it's not bunched up. And let me see what I got here. Container fluid, and container fluid. Alright. So now in the product HTML, and inside of our container fluid, I'm going to use some Emmet code here to create what I want. So we're going to do div class row, and then we want to have where it has div column times 2. And this first column is going to be open with, we want to do this one 9, because this is where the content for the product is going to be displayed, and this is where the image for the product is going to be displayed. So let's do div class product div image, and then finally div product underscore image. Alright. So that's going to be used to gather our product itself, and then we're going to be passing along some information here. So let's do h2 class product price, and then we want to do div product description, DSCRIP description, and then I think that's all we need for now. So price description, sure, we'll add in a title here as well. So let's do h1, or let's do h1 product title, and there we go. Alright, so product title, product price, product description. Now inside of our product.js, we're going to kind of do the same thing that we did here, where we're actually going to create this class. So let's do class products And then again, we need a constructor. Not needing to pass anything to it, but we do need this API again. Alright, so now we got this constructor, and we're going to do a function called get single product, and we're going to be passing an ID that we're going to use. Okay, so inside of this categories here, we're going to kind of let's pass this along, because I think they're basically going to contain the same information. So I'm just going to copy get single category into get single product here, and the URL that we're going to be using to get this product, get a single product, is going to be products and then the ID. So let's just go ahead and pass over products 1 like that, and let's switch back here. Product ID. Now we're not calling it yet, so let's go back to our initialize.js, and we have our product set up here. Actually, I just thought of something. So we want to, if this does not exist, we don't want to run this get single category, because we're not going to be always on a category page. So we're going to, if the URL parameter category does not exist, we do not want to run it. Otherwise, let's run it. Okay, so that was just something I saw. Okay, so now we're going to basically do the same thing that we've done here, and we're going to do let products, which is going to be new products, and then products get single products, or get single product, and then we're going to pass let's just say 1 in this instance. So we're going to do get single product. Do we want to call it product ID or product? Let's just call it ID, and then we're going to pass this ID here. Oh, ID. Okay. So let's get rid of this because we don't need that. Let's do console log data, and what is it telling us? Products. Okay, obviously cannot have that twice. Alright, so now we're grabbing this product from our API. So based on right now it's based on the 1 ID, so we can make it, we can kind of do the same thing that we've done here, where the URL parameter is going to be equal to that ID. So we're sending it over as a product ID. So this one's going to give us product ID 9. So if I change this manually to 10, you can see that it changes down here. So SanDisk SSD versus Western Digital 2 terabyte external hard drive. Alright, so that is working too. So now we're gathering the information that we need. We just need to pass it to our JavaScript. So inside of our products.js, instead of console log, we are going to actually write out some of the information. So let's see what we got here. We have title, price, description, and image. Let's do the image first. So let's do product image .html, and then we're going to send it image source, and this is going to be the image that it's giving us. And let's go ahead and add class equals image fluid. Okay, so here is going to be data.image. Let's see, does that work? It does not. Why does it not work? So we got our body column, it should be here, product image. Oh, that's because I got to do class product image. There we go. Alright, so now we're getting the image. If we switch this over to a 10, good, it's changing. Alright, so that is what we're needing it to do. So now let's grab the rest of the information. Alright, so we also have the title. So I'm just going to copy this to here for now, because we're basically going to be reusing it. And then let's do another one here, and then finally one here. Okay, so we're going to have the title, price, and description is going to be data.title, data.price, and data.description. And let's see how that looks. So it's giving us our description. The price needs to be formatted. This it looks like it's coming over as a string. We can probably wrap that inside of a paragraph tag to make it a little bit better looking, and we can control it a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and add that. So the data description, we're going to add a paragraph tag before it and after it. Going back to PHP. There. And then the price, we're going to do to fixed to the second place, which should give us an actual decimal point. This should now be inside of a paragraph tag, which it is. Let's go ahead and add a $sign to the beginning of that. Alright, so we get that. And I think that's it. So that's how our product page will look. I mean, obviously it's not going to end up looking like that at the end, but we're able to grab that information. So let's click on women's clothing, click on this product, and that loads correctly. So we're actually grabbing information from an API, and we're pulling it. Alright, so let's go back to our home page. Our home page is currently blank. It has nothing in it. I'm going to add some information to this navigation up here so we can actually go link back and forth between all of these pages. So let's create a li, and inside of this li we're going to have a class equals nav link, and href equals just a slash, and we're going to make it the home link. And let's see how that looks for us. Okay, so home, and then let's create inside of this L class navigation. We're going to, since this is technically a drop down, we're going to make it actually be a drop down. So let's do a href. Let's do a href equals hash, so it doesn't actually go anywhere. We're going to do class equals nav link, and I want to say drop down toggle, and let's just say store. It's kind of sort of getting there, but it's not pointing to the right place, so we need to customize this a little bit more. So we have our nav item here, nav link, let's do id equals nav bar drop down, and this is going to be roll of button data toggle equals drop down, and then let's do Maria has pop-up equals true, and then Maria expanded equals false. Okay, so now we have this div class categories. Let's do drop down menu, because we are calling that, or we're not calling it yet, but we will call it. And then Aria labeled by nav bar drop down. Okay, let's see how this functions. Still doesn't work the way we want it to, so let's see, what are we missing here? Feels like I'm missing something else. Alright, well, let's build out the entire header. Alright, so let's do header class, and this is something you can find on, actually, you know what? That's a great idea. Let's go to Bootstrap. And let's do header examples. That's probably something I want to pull up. So let's find one that we can work with here. Nav bars, static fixed. Let's see what this one looks like. Okay. Let's grab this one that has a drop down on it. So I'm going to inspect this, and I'm just going to copy their entire div that they have here. So copy element, and I'm just going to paste that here. Let's see how that looks. And that looks much better. And the drop down, well, drop down doesn't work because there's nothing linking to it. Alright, so we can clean it up a little bit. And let's clean it up by saying that we're going to do, this is logo here. And then I'm also going to put this inside of a container fluid. Okay, something's wrong. The drop down still isn't working. Alright, let's go back to what I had there. Home store. I don't know why the drop down's not working here. I think there's something I need to write for it, but I can't remember what it is. Let's see, nav link. That's definitely something that needs to be fixed here, but I don't think that would affect this. No, it wouldn't. Okay. Maybe I need to do something with the style sheet. I'm just looking through my other code to see what I did to take care of that. Alright, looking through here, so we got our header class. Let me go ahead and look based on the code that I have. I'm sure there's something I can have in here. So let's do P. We're going to do padding 3, BG dark, just because it looks better, and then text white. And that'll make it look a little bit better for us. So container fluid, and let's add this inside of, let's add some more information here. So href and slash, and again, you don't have to do it this way. This is just what I'm doing because this is how I did it whenever I was doing my test of this project. Items center, but you can have whatever kind of navigation you want. But this is what I feel it looks. It'll look like the demo that I showed you at the beginning of this. So text decoration, none. And we're going to do logo here. Okay. Then we're going to have UI class. We're going to do nav, column 12, column large, auto, me large, auto, MB2, justify content center, MB 0, and then over here, like class equals nav item. Why is my logo up here? Okay. I think I need to wrap this in another div. So div class equals d flex wrap items center, justified content center. I'm probably going to fast forward through all of this. Okay, so I got it to work. It was with how I had the JavaScript, so it's bundled there, but it's not working. So I think it's because I'm using 5.0.1. In my demo, I was using 4.4.1, which is the one that's currently released out here, and it's also, with the nav bar, that's the one that they're using there. So if I'm going to click on documentation here, and I'm going to go down to their starter template, and basically just copy and paste all the information that's here. And I think that be it. I don't recommend using the Slim library. Use the regular CDN that we pulled earlier from jQuery, just because the Slim library it's minimized version of it, and it's not great. So don't use that. And let me make sure that I got this. So it's still using Bootstrap 5.1 for CSS. So I'm going to copy over this, and then I'm going to adjust it for the 3 pages that we have. Okay, so I'm going to copy this category, replace that there, and we're also going to do the product there. And then I'm going to copy my 3 scripts here, and we're going to place those in here as well. Alright, so that should give us this. We click on it, navigation should still work. We click on this, navigation still works. Okay, so now we kind of have a general flow going. Alright, so I'm going to close everything that we don't need right now, and we're pretty close to wrapping up this tutorial because it's getting what I want. So one of the things that I want to do on the home page, which is the reason why I added navigation, was to add a new function that will pull like new products. So if we go back over here, we can limit our results, and then we can also sort these results. So what I want to do is show like some new products, So I'm going to open up our index.html, and where it says page content goes here, I'm just going to add in a just like a h2. So h2 newest products, and then we're going to do div class row products and new. So inside of the category HTML, we created this row products. So we can use the same logic from the JavaScript for our categories, which is this get single category. We can use the same logic there inside of our products JavaScript in order to pull this information. Okay, so we have, let me just copy this over. We're just going to copy this get single category because that's grabbing all of it from one category, and we're going to, I'm just going to paste it above this, and instead of being get single category, we're going to call this get new products. And we don't need to pass a slug to it, but we will be passing a limit to it. And then the URL here is just going to be products and limit equals whatever the limit is that we are passing. Okay, so right now it's not calling anything, so let me save this, and it says there's an error in it. There's an error there. I copied over, did not copy enough. Don't know why, but I did not copy enough. So I'm going to go back and finish copying that. Alright, so now we got new products. Then we're going to go back to our initialize.js. Inside of our product setup, we are going to pass over, we're going to check first. So basically the same thing that we're doing here, but we're going to check to see if this div exists. So we're going to do if, and then we called it products, and then we added the class new to it. So if this class is, if it exists, so dot length, if it exists, we're going to run this function here. So instead of get single product, this is going to be get new products, and let's say we want to pass 8 to it. Okay, and also I'm going to copy this over because if the product ID parameter exists, we need to run that. So product ID, otherwise don't run it. Okay, so now we can see here we are getting the newest products, but it's not exactly what I want. It's kind of based off of the categories. So actually no, it is what I want. So it's pulling over what I want. And let's also add a sort to it. So we're going to do plus equals and sort equals descending. So that'll give us the newest products in descending order. If we turn it to ascending, you can see that it refreshes it and it shows basically the oldest products. So we're going to sort this by descending, because that is parameters that you can add to it. So if we come over here, you can see that we can limit the results. We can add a sort to them, you know, stuff like that. So all right, well, I think that's pretty much it for grabbing information from the external API using JavaScript. Hopefully some of the stuff that I showed you, like setting up the template placeholders and then kind of loading this script, is something you've never seen before, because it is pretty useful. I'm not gonna lie, it's something that saved me a few times. So if you're not using if you're using like Vanilla.js or jQuery and you're not using like an MVC JavaScript framework like Angular or anything like that, then using these kind of ways to grab these templates and this kind of way to load the scripts, it is a time saver. So this project you could probably do it using something like Angular, or one of the MVC frameworks for JavaScript, but I wanted to kind of go a more simpler way with something that more people would be aware of. jQuery is still pretty popular, and since most of my stuff is WordPress based or PHP based, I use jQuery on pretty much every project that I build. So if you're using JavaScript or jQuery, then this is something that you should know. And I tried to not force it to be kind of in one silo. I mean, this is just flat HTML, CSS that we haven't even got into yet, and JavaScript. So you don't have to use Bootstrap. You can use whatever kind of CSS framework you want, build your own. You don't have to use jQuery. You can recreate a lot of this stuff using the other frameworks. So the point of this tutorial is to kind of show you how to access some of these external APIs that we've built in the past. So if you follow some of my other tutorial videos, you can build a CRUD application using PHP that also ties into an API, and then this API can talk directly to the front end of your website. So right now there is no authentication that's going on, but there is some API calls that we can use to set a user login and stuff like this that we're eventually going to get to in this tutorial series. So right now it's kind of wide open, and you can see how to utilize an API, whether it's your own or you're pulling from Walmart or Amazon or wherever you're pulling your products through this API. You can do it the same way. You would just pass different parameters and information into your Ajax in order to pull what you want, but the basic fundamental aspect of this project doesn't change. You're pulling it, and this is how you're getting it and displaying it on your site. So hopefully you learned something. If you did, give me a thumbs up. I would love to hear some feedback from you if this is something that you're interested in doing, because I will have the next few weeks of videos will be turning this into what you saw in the demo or the presentation at the beginning, where it's kind of like just building up into a fully functional e-commerce solution that you can build using just HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. So again, if you liked it, give me a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, because there's a few more videos in this series and you don't want to miss them. Hit the bell notification to be notified whenever I am getting ready to push out a new video. And I think that for now, that's going to do it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.